All right, back inside. Me and the adventure dog in the shop. Her chewing on her elk bone. She scored. I found. I might have mentioned this earlier. I don't know. I forget. But she was digging in the freezer and I found two big chunks of elk femur with some meat on them. Score, because she's like she won't chew on beef bone. Done. Weird, right? Bought a packet of those beef bones where they chop them off the leg, put them in the packet for dogs or boiling for broth or whatever. And I bought a few of those packs and I bring one fishing, give it to her. She's like, "Ew, Dad, I don't eat that shit." Wonder what's going on in some of these cows because she was eating those bones and all of a sudden she's not. Odd, right? And then I pull out the elk bone. Don't like dinner. Now, a handful of people who are so upset because I have my dog on a leash in the woods. You can't make anybody happy. Isn't that funny? You can't make anybody happy ever when you're out in the public eye. And as well, it's amazing how many people in the world feel that you should be doing things the way I do. Right? Anyway, for the curious, the people who whine about my dog being on a leash, we're constantly surrounded by elk. Constantly when I take her fishing. And they're right there when I'm elk shedding. And furthermore, black bear season opened up April 1 to top it off. And I'm not about, she wants to hunt. She hates bears too. The bears are out, so. Now, I keep her with me. I keep her under control and I keep her with me. And there's no stress, it's safe. I don't have any elk in the yard to train her not to frickin' chase. And bears, she is encouraged here to go after bears. So, how'd you explain that to her? Okay, chase that bear out of the yard. Chase it down here. Get him. Oh, but not out here in the woods where who knows how many miles you're going to run for and I don't have a GPS collar on you. So there you go. And I don't need you getting shot. So, there we go. I keep my dog with me under control out in the forest in the middle of nowhere. Period. Now, who do we got? We have another one from our senior First Nations member, Hawk, who's relaying information about his grandfather and one of these beings he befriended years ago in the wilds. Now, listen to this. What do we got? Good morning, Steve from Hawk. Good morning, Steve. It's a gooder that you started this channel. After you read my last email, what you said made me think. Maybe my grandfather decided he didn't want to talk about any special abilities the forest people have. Maybe Scar didn't show my grandfather some of the things he could do. Scar did point out a spot on the mountain where his people lived and asked my grandfather to not come up there. I always thought it was for privacy. Could there be other reasons too? It is gooder. You have created a place where we can discuss things like this. And I can see now that this is a place where my grandfather's words and experiences can live on and be shared. I am the last one left to retell what my grandfather shared. Everyone else is gone or too young to remember, so I'll do my best. I did see a comment that asked how Scar and my grandfather communicated. My grandfather said they started off slow, with my grandfather pointing at something, like, say, a tree. And he would say tree. Then Scar would say it in his language. My grandfather said that Scar picked up his language much faster than he could pick up Scar's language. At first, when they started to try to talk together, my grandfather would try to talk in Scar's language, and Scar would try to talk in my grandfather's language, which was English. Later on, my grandfather did teach Scar how to speak in Shoshone, too. He said Scar wanted to know the names of everything and was constantly pointing at something and wanted to know how to say it. He said tell Scar once, maybe twice, and Scar remembered it. The two hardest things was, one, Scar couldn't get the concept of this, that, and type of words. If you couldn't see it or do it, they didn't have a word for it. The other was my grandfather said he was constantly telling Scar to slow down when he talked. He said it would sound like he was running on all words. He was running all the words together with no breaks. And if Scars was really excited, he would say some of the words on the inhale. My grandfather said Scar could literally talk forever without a break. He said Scar wanted to know everything my grandfather could teach and tell him. The one thing Scar really wanted to know about was planes in the sky. my grandfather said he doesn't think he ever really got the concept that people were in them and flying them. They have a great fear of things that come from the sky. I'll write later about that. And one thing to clarify about Steve, when I said they respected other clans' boundaries, I didn't mean they couldn't go there. They go wherever they want, it seems. I was just saying that when they come upon another clan's tree structure, they don't just jump the fence and walk down your drive and knock on the door. They know better than that. They will let you know they are there or just move on. I got one funny story for you, Steve. Then I got to get going. My grandfather told of a time when he was out camping. He and Scar had been hanging out for the day. The sun was going down, and my grandfather decided to build a fire, so we started gathering wood. Scar helped. He had seen my grandfather's campfires before. He told Scar to watch, and he would show him how he made the fire. He said Scar squatted down a couple of feet behind him and off to the right. My grandfather squatted down in front of the logs with a box of matches. He said as soon as the match roared to life, he found himself flat on his back several feet away and dizzy as hell. Scar looked concerned and grabbed my grandfather's hand to look at it, and as soon as the match lit, Scar had grabbed my grandfather by the back of his coat and yanked him back several feet and swatted the match from his hand. My grandfather said it took a couple of minutes for his head to stop spinning from being yanked back so fast and so hard. Scar asked him if he would live. His way of asking if my grandfather was okay. Then my grandfather slowly went step by step to show how a match works. Thank you for your time, Steve. Appreciate you and your channel, Hawk. All right, man. Keep them coming. I'm all about the mention of being scared from something in the sky. There's been a handful of mentions of that type of reaction and concern going on out there with people who have been in contact with these other beings that we're not familiar with. Now, who's next? This is titled My First Encounter. Hi, Steve. Call me Jake here again. As promised, here's my first Sabe encounter. It was back in the early 80s when I went camping with two buddies and their girlfriends. My girlfriend had the flu, so I went along because I love to camp. I was manning the fire while the others were out walking, LOL. I was just out of the Army and a competition tactical shooter, so my situational awareness was at its peak. I had this feeling that I was not alone. But as the area was popular for camping, I shrugged it off. But then I had my S&W 44 mag guide gun holstered on my hip. And let me say here that I have Native American lineage on my mother's side. My grandparents told me stories about the forest people, but always made the point, that they would leave you alone if you left them alone and respected the land. Also, two, on the way in and out, to leave a blessing such as tobacco. My grandma would always laugh and say they preferred peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I shit you not. On this trip, I left a PBJ going in and had a bag of roll-your-own tobacco for the way out. That said, while the lovers were walking, I heard two thumps in the distance. I estimated them to be at least a quarter mile away. The next thing I knew, a tree branch, a little bigger than my arm, landed about 15 yards from the fire. It could only have come from the very steep hill next to our camp. I went over to the branch, and it was heavier than anyone I knew could throw more than a few feet. I looked up the hillside and saw nothing. I took the branch over to the fire. It was pretty dry. So I knocked the lower limbs off with my axe, threw it on the fire, and sat back down. The lovers returned about 10 minutes later, and I chose not to mention the gifted log. We left the next afternoon, and I made sure all the trash packed out with us, and the fire ashes were black and cold. I went to that spot a couple times before moving out of the state, but I never had a repeat of the gifting or thumps in the distance. I've told this story several times with mixed reception. Thanks, Steve, for giving folks a safe place to share such stories. God bless and safe travels, my friend Jake. P.S. I was at Bass Pro the other day, and they had S&W revolver guide gun with a 6-inch barrel. I shit you not, chambered in .350. Legend. All I could think of is someone built it just because they could. Go figure. Yeah. Well, we're not allowed to have handguns up here in Canada, Stan. Actually, they've outlawed over 1,000 styles of guns this past couple of years. Isn't that amazing and alarming? Yeah, appreciate that share, man. Appreciate it. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Now, we have another member here that sends in some screenshots from comments in the comment section. So here we go. We got a few here. 3 YouTube comments. Friend and family of source of video of family walking. All right, so the video the other day that everybody got so angry with me about how to hunt on top of it. You know, it's funny on that mention this morning. Get up and I'm checking some emails. And then I open up my YouTube app and there's a bunch of, they show videos, YouTube videos that are suggested for you. 3 different ones came up with the thermal video on, all edited in for their content like they came across it. Pretty weak, right? But I guess that's just the way it is now, right? There's so many people have been raised. We're at that generation now. They've all been raised with a phone in their face. And I guess a lot of people have been raised with clout being the huge goal. The number one item with a lot of people is clout that gets you respect. Clout meaning a following. And I have to have a following. I just need a following so bad. I guess that's what it must be more commonly today than not, right? And I guess if there's nothing interesting about you yet, if you haven't lived any life yet, but you want to be followed, you're going to have to steal some people's shit, right? I guess so. I'm guessing. What a frustrating time to be alive if you're younger and haven't been raised out in the real world. I couldn't imagine myself. I couldn't imagine what it must be like being a young person today, being raised by these. We watched, and let's face it, I know people. I watched a lot of people. Just got to wipe these things off. I know a lot of people whose kids were basically raised by an iPad. And I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit what any of you parents say to try to justify that. There's nothing you can say to me that can justify stuffing an iPad in your kid's face when it's a little too frustrating for your ass. Because there was literally billions of children were raised without iPads. Okay? If billions of people did that successfully without iPads, so could you have. Right? So could you have. Take from what you will, leave it. Now, before I go ripping on down another lane, from April 3rd, 2025, YouTube, quote, is this video of a family group of Sasquatch? The video. The YouTube comments regarding that video sent in include the following. Tissy, our friend that sent this in to Steve, is a good friend of ours. My wife and Tissy went to school together in Western Washington. Tissy sent this video to me a few years ago. Her brother that filmed the Sasquatch did so in February/March timeframe. From what I read, those beings were in 12 inches or deeper water and acting like they're in the Bahamas on a 90-degree day. It reminds me of our friendly mule deer that lay down and sleep in cold, muddy snow. Definitely a different level of comfort that us humans enjoy. And then another comment. I forgot to mention that I also had a sighting when I lived up there, and this area looks very similar to where I saw one. So that's why I ask where specifically this was taken. My sighting was on Highway 395 between Colville and Chewellah. Chewellah? Chewellah. I've now learned my sighting was in what they call the Chewellah Bigfoot Triangle. I had no idea at the time that that is why they called that area. That is what they call that area. This is my dad's video. Another comment. This is my dad's video. He saw them in January 2021 in northern Idaho. He was with his neighbor when he filmed this, and he saw them as well. They were out near a creek in that field. And then another video. Another comment. Our daughter here. Within 10 miles of Spirit within 10 miles of Spirit Lake, I'll tell you that. All right, so I guess that's a little banter going back and forth. Editor. Spirit Lake, Idaho, both a lake and a town, is northeast of Spokane, Washington, and due east of Mount Spokane State Park, just inside of Idaho a few miles in Boone County. They're pretty much sorry, my bad. They're pretty much tucked in towards the meeting of Colville National Forest, Conexu National Forest, and Coeur d'Alene National Forest, one of the Idaho Panhandle National Forests. Editor. I've seen children run that way. Legs near straight when they scoot to something instead of bending their legs and walking, running or jogging. Pretty much stops in early double-digit years. All right, and there's a private email there for me, and I'll have to read that later. And there you go. Appreciate that, man. I think we read some of those already. No big deal, no harm, no pain. This next one's titled A Short Hiking Story. I spent many days hiking in Carson National Forest in northern New Mexico. I was staying in Taos. How's that pronounced? Taos? Taos? I should remember because I guided a awesome wildlife biologist years ago from Taos, New Mexico. Sorry. And drove to my location early before sunrise and hike all day and drive back to Taos at the end of the day. On one occasion, I drove to my parking spot before sunrise. It was still too dark, so I sat in my truck till I could see better. And this location is about 8,000 foot in elevation with lots of aspen and pine. And as it got lighter, so I could see, I looked to my left at a group of aspen. And 2 of these aspen trees began shaking violently. But I could not see what was causing this. My first thought was an elk, but there's nothing there. I was baffled as to what was causing this. And as it got even more light, I got out of my truck and walked over to the aspen. I looked for tracks and marks in the trees, and there were none. My hand would only fit about halfway around one of these trees. I had to put both of my hands around this aspen and tried to shake it. Barely moved it. My last trip, I got to my parking area and sat there to eat before my hike. I started hearing an animal growling and sounded like he was walking around my vehicle. And it was daylight already, but I could see nothing. I got out of my truck to get a drink and look around my truck for tracks, and there was nothing. I thought to myself, am I going nuts? I feel like this is in my head. I even took my phone, turned it off, and put it in the center console. I have no explanation for what I've seen and heard, but I wanted to share. People will never understand until something like this happens to them. Ed. Agreed. Agreed. Okay, here's another one titled River Tree Break. Hello, Steve. I sent a story a year ago or so, guessing it was lost. No problem here. No problem there. My name is Jack B. from South Carolina. You can share my name. Those local know me, and the rest know I'm in the game. This is about a trip my friend Clint and I took on a kayak in the Congaree Swamp area one day around noontime. Rock hounding, and beaver stick hunting. We found an off-kick creek that returned to the main river and pulled up. It had a high bank and was best a portage rather than the mouth of the creek. We tied up our yaks and start over the bank that's about 8 feet high, and we hear a large crack and crash sound coming from the opposite side of the berm. And we crest the bank and both stood with our mouths wide open, saying, "What the F was that?" A river willow was broken over, blocking the creek ditch, and was snapped off about 8 feet high and was 4 inches in diameter. Green, straight growing, healthy tree 10 yards from our view. I told Clint, no way. Something's trying to keep us out of there. I'm pressing on to see what's being hidden behind the massive cracked over tree like an idiot. I plow my way through and go up in the ditchway, resuming the hunt, having a very strange feeling of leave the area like never before. My buddy was kind of hanging back us both having heads on swivels at this point. These trees are tough as hell and are a stable of bush hook, sorry, and are a stable of bush hook fishing. There's not many large catfish can break them easily. It was slim pickings up in here and creeps me out. So we still are examining this tree broken off so high up, like nothing could have hit or caused this in the normal world. Total wow. We start to head back over the berm, and as we joke, we say, "Hey, your boat's gone, lol." Well, Clint says this, and I'm like, "Right, dude." Still uneasy as F. I crest the hill, and holy smokes, my boat is gone. I mean, long gone. My phone, my wallet, protection, water, everything's gone. I'm looking up river, down river, and again up and down. No yak in sight. My buddy says, "I'll go find it." He takes off in his kayak, and I figure to start heading down river to meet him. Since the current here was a little strong to pump already solo this day, he goes out of sight. I begin going down the bank, and not very easy to say the least, over and under limbs, out and in the water, in the nasties of mudbank briar hells. About 35 yards in, I see deer tracks, fresh running away from my direction, but in the same stride and basic path. I keep going, and then notice large cat tracks in the stride and chase the deer. Tracks also fresh, and a set of baby cub tracks followed. That feeling of fear and every hair on your body standing up like never felt before hits me. My buddy's out of sight. I'm wanting to jump in the river and swim in the fear of this chase being fresh, and it's just me with nothing, not even a stick, lol. I pick up speed, more like survival mode now, and then I come upon a tree like I've seen on safaris on TV, curved and fat neck overhanging the river with scratches all down the lower trunk and blood soaked from the roost area all down the 1.5-foot trunk, where the panther, I'll call it, had took this full-size deer up into this tree and feasted. There is no remains below this tree. It's a little odd because they don't normally do that. I almost shit myself and went into the water at this point, going for my friend or the other bank 30 yards across, give or take, and I see my buddy hard pumping both kayaks upriver to me. We both ended up bailing as the current was so bad, you had no gain. The water was on the rise. We had to tow the kayaks, trudging through the water and deep sands and muck, and we were worn out. They say there are no large cats here, and they lie. But back to the tree snapped off at 8 feet high. There is no way a large cat did that. I think we pulled up quietly upon another large animal tall enough to snap a 4-inch green tree in half like a pencil. You can't even break a small limb clean off. Just like the tree snapped and bent over to block the ditch. And this isn't my first time in this area coming up silently on a kayak. Once was a clearing, and I was solo and banked, and it smelled of wet dog and ass, and there was a large nest of some type behind a small dirt bank clearing, really packed down clay, and that same feeling of dread and leave now. I did then as fast as I could. And I'm the guy who shared the story about the female Sabe. I was camping up near Newberry and bailed to my truck as it became cold that night. I woke to a thin female Sabe staring at me beside my truck. 7 feet tall, light reddish brown fur, dark black, big eyes, and small boobs. Human-type face with the hair coming straight down over the face. Larger face features and showing skin colors close to Caucasian. At first I thought it was a tree as it looked malnourished and skinny. Long arms that came about mid-thigh. It stood about 20 feet from my driver's door, and I had a side view of it. I had my pistol on my lap, and my phone was on the magnetic mount on the dash. I turned to grab the phone, not even a second, and it was gone. No tracks in the pine straw and hard clay and dry rocky soil. It was border to game management land also. Anyone who has spent enough time deep in the wilderness knows there is more than meets the eyes. Getting the mind speak is what I try to dial into now. It's not just random. I've heard the knocks many times. I never thought very far into it until hearing the recordings. Thanks, buddy, for all you do. One day all the stuff hidden will be revealed. I'm still trying to understand the connection with the craft and portals. I do have a horde of pics there. Longtime member of the Club of No Return, Jack B. There you go, Jack. Appreciate that, man. I hope you realize now, you probably figured it out, that cats don't do that here in North America. They don't. They don't. Didn't make it up. Nothing I can do about it. It's fact. Half my friends are freak cougar chasers, houndsmen, and all they do is come across the kills while trailing with the dogs on the ground. Every time. Okay. Who's next? Okay, here's another one. It's endless. And it's only endless because it's truth, right? Puzzle piece, small, question mark, / large, question mark. Title of this email. Yes, Steve, please share my name. It's Donna Lynn Fraser. Donna Lynn Fraser, you are a brave, honest woman. There you go. Welcome to the club. Hey, Steve, and all the knights of the round table. My encounter, if that's what it was short but almost overwhelming. It was early spring of 2020 in Bala, in Muskoka. My brother and I were sitting around the fire pit. He was drinking. I was not, although there were a few doobies involved, lol. After a while, he went to bed and I stayed there tending the fire. I remember noticing a mist in front of me and I thought it was my breath, but it wasn't. Then I thought maybe it's coming off my skin, but nope. And then it was right in front of my face, and I started to feel woozy and nauseated and dizzy, and very heavy at all at the same time. All I could think to do was to ask it to kindly back off, please, and thank God it did. I barely made it up the stairs when I went to bed. Now, I don't know if this had anything to do with me and the 20-pound tumor that grew in my abdomen or not, but maybe that experience rendered it benign. Who knows? But after listening to the people through you and learning about the irradiated footprints, etc., I have to wonder what that really was. Thanks, my brother, from another mother, for just being you. P.S. Since you asked about what should really be taught in schools, I've been meaning to answer that with a few ideas. I'll email later with that. Love, light, and healing to all. All right, there you go. A mist. I don't think that's the first time we've heard about a mist. I don't think so. What's this? This is a big, not too long. I'm going to go into it. The title's a long one. Let me mark this as red. Disappearing cars, broken tree paths, / body reverberating roar, / back of the neck hair standing, and on cats, / orb, / and seeing the future is the title of this email. Here we go. I've seen too many of your videos to stay silent. I've never seen the point of mentioning all these. Who'd believe it? LOL. Who cares? It's more unbelievable to see the exact things I've experienced being told on your videos. Yeah, can't make this stuff up. My name is... Hold on a minute. All right. We just shared his name and then a whole paragraph explaining why not to share his name. I gotcha. Okay. I used to think maybe my life was just, I don't know, abnormal. Some family curse or blessing, maybe. Being adopted, I only met my biological mother once, and have yet to get around to meeting Dad. But now I'm getting curious if just weird stuff happens to other people. Seemingly nonstop. I drove big trucks most of my life, mostly 48 states around America and the lovely country you call home. I've taken breaks locally here and there through the years, which will be relevant here, but first, the disappearing car. I've never mentioned that to anyone. It was unbelievable. And now even more so to hear that story from Palestine, Texas. While driving north on I-35, one of the largest freeways north-south in Texas, in the middle of the night, I came into a construction zone with concrete barriers on both sides. I had to slow to 45 miles per hour. As I was approaching an overpass, I could see the exit and the entrance were also bordered with the so-called Jersey barriers. I could see headlights turning from the highway. I was crossing toward the freeway entrance ahead of me inside the barriers. And as I rolled over the overpass, the headlights' glow was visible inside the barriers leading onto the freeway. There was absolutely no mistake about that. The car slowed close to the merge point, as four-wheelers often do, just before they pull out directly in front of you, LOL. But stopping on the freeway for them is impossible with traffic moving up on my left, moving over was out of the question. I saw the headlights moving into the concrete barrier lined merge point without an inch of shoulder as I rolled down from the overpass in a panic, passing that point in the cab of my truck. Our merging speeds would take that car directly under my trailer. I gasped and waited to feel my trailer mashing over the automobile, and it never came. My eyes were moving continually from the narrow road with / traffic to my right mirror and back. It was gone. I had to stop looking for the car. For miles, it just disappeared. Quick question, I wonder, unless I didn't read, I'm not taking it in, but I wonder if it was lights. Or did you see the actual metal part did you see the car behind the lights, I wonder. The traffic passing me there kept moving up the road, 2 cars. Excuse me, I was aware of them while approaching the overpass. The car in the entrance barriers I watched, gaining speed, approaching that merge point, just disappeared, never coming out on the freeway at speed. I watched it. Then after looking in my mirror, it just wasn't there anymore. There was nowhere for it to go inside the solid barrier lining of the roads through that construction area. Just south of Waco, Texas, a little more than 100 miles from Palestine, Texas, maybe. A real short Texas distance, LOL. I've driven over 30 years with no tickets, accidents, farther than to the moon and back, LOL. I've always taken my job serious, going as far as building a driver staffing service to go nationwide. And my point, I'm very serious about my work, and I was not mistaken that night. I put that memory with the others in the Explain That file. Now to subjects you're more familiar with. Okay, quick mention. I wonder if there's any official mentions of any people and their vehicles going missing in that area. Same time. Wonder. While taking a break for 48 states, I took a year doing local work and got myself a little cabin in the woods in northeast Mississippi, somewhere around 30 miles west of Alabama and 40 miles south of Tennessee. It's rolling hills in this area with a lot of swamp ground. My cabin had been abandoned for a full year before I moved in, and I was told no one ever visited the 40 acres of woods behind it that came with it. It was a very rural area. The woods and weeds had grown up to the tin roof and wrap-around deck in the back. It had 2 apple and 2 pear trees in the backyard, along with another tree 20 feet or so. Not sure what variety, but it was broken a little more than halfway up towards the cabin. It crossed my mind, but I laughingly put that thought out of my mind. Until living there alone. Just me and my 2 mouser cats, Chubbs and Anubis. I woke up on the couch sometime after midnight and realized my cats were still outside. I went out onto the screened-in porch, flipped on the 2 floodlights that lit my little nicely cleaned-up backyard, opened the older screen door with a loud screech from the old spring, and called for my cats. The second I opened the door, I heard something very large retreating into the woods from the corner of the yard behind the apple trees. Good grief, I thought to myself. That must be the biggest deer I've ever seen. I could hear large tree limbs breaking along with the regular sticks, brush, etc. almost like trees breaking. You can tell the difference, you know. It did strike me as kind of odd, though. I'm sure you're aware of how when you spook a deer, they will bolt off, crash, 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 crash into the woods. And it sounds as though they're gone. This last guy, almost with a cadence as if on 2 feet, walked about 15 to 20 yards out into the woods and abruptly stopped. That seemed odd. That moment standing there listening to him, but whatever. My cats, I called a second time, Chubbs, Anubis. I called a second time, Chubbs, Anubis. Nothing. So again, louder still. Suddenly, right there. And then I became a member of this new club. I think this club's generations old. Sigh. I became a member of this new club. Sigh. This ear-piercing roar/scream, I don't know exactly what you classify that as. The same one I've now heard dozens of times described in your videos. Exactly. LOL. Excuse me, got to be getting boring for you to read. You speak of patterns. This is definitely one of the most common I've heard on your channel. This thing was so loud. You think the neighbors at the bottom of the hill, some distance away, would hear it. The common factors, quote, it reverberated through my entire body like standing in front of a PA speaker at a rock concert, end quote. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. And get this. My 2 cats, one long-haired, one short, ran out of the woods from the direction the scream came from, nose to tail, faster than I've ever seen cats move before or since, and I swear to you, every hair on both of those cats' bodies was sticking straight up or out, or however you could describe 2 black fuzzballs flying by you into the house. I had never had the hair on my neck stand up before, or have I since that night. Hearing that, feeling that, then, before it had quit, seeing my cats with all the hair on in that fashion. Nope, that was it. It took me a few seconds to understand. I could not comprehend what the heck that possibly could be. But it was nothing on any see and say ever made. I spent most of my free time for years while out of a truck or city in the woods. I've camped from the mountains in Flagstaff to south of New Orleans, Arkansas, Texas, Tennessee, to running a rabbit ranch in the mountains east of LA, surrounded by the big cats. LOL. Spent time in a lot of the woods all over the country. And there's nothing in this country that sounds like that, especially in Mississippi. Snap, pardon. There sure is, huh? I know now. That finally registered that moment. Do you remember that? What a mind blower. A few seconds after I quit screaming, unable to process what was happening, except I'd worked most of the year to take that house back from the woods. It was mine. And this a-hole, what the heck ever, was not going to terrorize me in my yard. So I strolled a few long steps into the house, grabbed my Shorty SKS off the wall with a full 30-round clip. I quickly got to the center of my backyard. Uh-oh, did you call it a clip? My gun freak buddies always correct me when I say clip, so I just say it all the time to piss them off. It's a magazine. No, it's a clip. Sorry. I quickly got to the center of my backyard, leaving 15 yards or so to the wood line, LOL. And, hand on the pistol grip, opened up. Did not need full auto. It would not have shot much faster. Leaving 15 rounds in the gun, I immediately, after lighting up my backyard, I let out a real scream. Nothing like those guys running around trying to call them. My scream said, "Come and get some," in whatever language that kind of scream is. I stood there waiting, kind of wondering how smart that was the longer I stood there. And I fully expected King Kong to come crashing down trees, charging me. But I figured I could empty the rest of that clip in him and bury that bayonet fully in one of his eyeballs before he took me out, so he'd remember me anyway. And I'm glad it didn't work out that way. Just that really pissed me off, and the adrenaline from that, well, you get it, right? Yes, fright. Fright turns to anger every time with everybody. It's the way we're built. Fright is, in the end, actually anger. Or maybe it's the other way around. Anger's fright. The next day, with my rifle strapped to my back, I grabbed my machete and started hacking into the spot I thought I could most easily get to, where he had screamed from. But, as per something else you mentioned, I first went to the corner, where I heard him crashing into the woods, and nothing, and I mean nothing. There were no tracks of any kind, not a broken limb on any tree, bush, even the briars, which were giant and thick as barbed wire fencing. Didn't appear to be pulled, not moved at all. Their little leaves and vines were tangled across the bush, as naturally and uniformly as anywhere across the back of the property. I distinctly heard big limb breaks, and there was no question where they were coming from. Deer frequently ate off and from under those trees, but they walked up from the left side of the yard. This went from there into the woods. Pow! More that doesn't process, and more of that pattern you've mentioned I hadn't thought that much about since. None of it made any sense. I left this area for 15 years, and back here again. I've been camping close by, far back in and away from everything. On one of my last trips to the little sandbar I camp on, unbelievable. The 14 to 16 inch footprints just below where the water line had been a day after a flood came through. Farther down the creek, there were more in the sand, again just below where the water had been. I had a phone with camera this time, but what the hell? I never told people the backyard story because it was only good for laughs. What difference would taking pictures of tracks make? LOL. Right? Enough for now. My title had more, but this is getting long, so LOL. My life. I'd love to open a dialogue with you regarding a few topics you've mentioned regarding these creatures, abilities, multidimensional, etc. I got a view outside the physical after dying in an automobile accident at 18 years of age. I plainly remember the entire experience. But you think this story was long, LOL. Keep being you and doing what you do. You never know what difference you may be making, even more than you're told. P.S. Don't forget the name thing if you don't mind. Okay, I got you, man. Appreciate the email. I'd love to hear about your NDE, near-death experience. I was listening to one last night, actually, after I kind of dropped looking into those for a while, because like someone said, you're going to be dead soon enough, right? Why worry about it? That was a point well made, actually. Now, what's this? 56 Years at Bluff Creek, Part 3? Did I read Part 1 and 2? Sounds familiar. Okay, I better... Oh, got photos here. I think, yeah, I read that. Okay, I read it. Read that. All right. This next email is titled, Just as Stuck as We Are. Hello, Steve and family. Dear people of the Club of No Return. It's John here. That Belgian guy, remember? LOL. Sounds familiar. Something got me thinking. Now, I don't know if the Sasquatch have always lived side by side next to us, but even if that's not the case, or some of the hairy giant species are a younger and some might be an older species than ours, but whatever the case is, I hear a lot of end times talk. And if that's the case, if Sasquatch is as intelligent as some claim, would they be aware of that too? And if they are, I immediately went like, wait a minute. If that's the deal, then I just know we have at least one thing in common. We're all effed. LOL. So that got me thinking like, okay, so if they know, why bother wanting contact if we're all going to die anyways? The question then is, why not have made contact with us sooner? Or did they try in the past via indigenous tribes? Just once the Christians and conquistadors came along. That ended? and went back into the woods and caves far away from us because they witnessed genocide. They witnessed our evolution into modern times and thought of it as a certain doom for the future of balance itself and all things natural. If I was another intelligent being living next to destructive intelligent animals, I would hide too and hope for the best. I would hide too and hope for the best, lol. Hoping those beasts would knock each other silly until it's time to take the world back, lol. But then again, if they knew of the end times as Christians believe, and most major religions, would the Sasquatch be religious as well? Double lol. Personally, I think humans here manipulated into a God and Jesus story because the whole Bible and stories that speak of the flood and the end times comes from the first written lost language of the Sumerian culture with their story of the Anunnaki and those who came to the heavens, from the heavens to earth, etc. in our primitive past. And stories like that of the devil seducing Adam and Eve with knowledge was a story of a rebel Anunnaki, prince that waged war with his brothers and father to stop enslaving humans. They created as slaves in their image to mine gold for them for the restoration process of their planet's core. I know it sounds like sci-fi, but that's what's written down as facts of their culture. All the gods of old, like the Northern and Germanic Roman/Greek gods, are actually tales repeated and retold throughout history. And to this day we keep worshipping these gods, but with other names. And we made many gods into only one god, and a few angels. Good for business if you catch my drift. Easier for the people to work their brains around. Modern religion is just another money and control system. Faith is another thing, and I would go as far as saying that even the whole Jesus and Muhammad thing is a false flag operation. They might have been real, but if so, they sure as shit was more to it than we know behind all the stories and the reasons as why they were here. Or it's all a bunch of baloney, and we have let us be enslaved for a good amount of time. We might have rebelled, but they always found ways to push our heads back down. Tower of Babel, the flood, wars, disasters, famine, viruses. Wink, wink. And, oh, no good, or the devil will get you if you mess up. Sorry, and oh, no God, or the devil will get you if you messed up. The more I think about it, the more I believe what I say is true. And I also think all of it, and I mean all of history, is just one big show put on, and we're all clowns in a circus given directions by the ringmaster. Work, cry, and die. Nothing else to do or see here, ladies and gents. Just watch the lions and the balance act. Wink, wink. Balance. Psh, right. Just keep eating your popcorn, y'all. Meanwhile, Sasquatch be like, well, we tried, but these knuckleheads are way too stupid and have grown so weak, and we're with too few to help them overthrow their lizard masters. Because one thing is for sure, we're not alone. We know it. They know it. And our governments do too. And that's just a fact. So, that means Sasquatch is just as stuck as we are. Meaning, they wouldn't know what to do to help us free ourselves. Also because of that so-called stupid galactic law that says not to harm or interfere, which I don't think really exists because we shook hands with aliens for their technologies back in the 40s. Not only then, but also in ancient times, we had deals with them. We gave them gold. They built our world. And as Zachariah Sitchin said in his books about the alien astronaut theory, and Eric von Däniken with his book Chariots of the Gods, etc., I think we, many animals extinct or hybrid or living, couple typos, many animals extinct or living, and Sasquatch are a product of crossbreeding and DNA manipulations from their DNA and primitive or evolving species that were already present. Some might be totally alien and brought over, or they literally seeded the beginning of our whole planet Maybe they terraformed our planet because theirs was dying, as was written. Or this was their planet all along. Or tree or a multiplanetary system. Multiplanetary system, which Mars was definitely of one. I think he meant planetary system, which Mars was definitely of one. The planet Nibiru. The moon? Maybe, etc. Or a collision with the moon and Earth put them in that elliptical orbit they always mention Nibiru travels in. Nibiru, home planet of the Anunnaki, or Nephilim, our Nephilim friends. The Sumerian texts do talk about the same stuff as in Genesis, created heavens and the earth, angels that had sex with women, and from them came giants and other creatures, etc. You see? I see. I think we all know what has been told by our masters is bullshit. With Steven Seagal as president. Oh, well. Could you imagine that? Steven Seagal as president. Well, I guess everybody gets a turn. I hope we will kick our master's ass one day and can be freed of the matrix we live in. Learn the truth about our history and place in this vast universe or multiverse. And one day crack open a cold one over a campfire with Sasquatch just hanging back with us, teaching us about the stars and the Middle Earth, LOL. Much love, John. Thanks for being you. And you remind me of James Bond, Daniel Craig, LOL, who is also a badass, but only in the movies. You're the real deal. The James Bond of our Sasquatch mission. And a man to look up to. Cheers. I can say your name? John Tuleman. Tulemans. All right, I got you, John. Appreciate that, man. It was an enjoyable read. The wheels are turning, right? The wheels are turning. Just like that, man. One of I feel one of the more intelligent people that have written in, which is there's no shortage of, but one of the more that stands out over the years, past handful of years, is a man who wrote in and wrote me a lot just for me to read. And he said flat out, he was told directly that, quote, the government does not care about anything or anyone, only the control of the labor to appease the entity. And that was from the top. And he said that statement has plagued him his entire career, although he's seen these beings. He's seen a lot of crazy ass shit. But he said that one statement is the one that would plagued him through life. And he's passed that on to me. That's been in the back of my melon ever since the first time I read it. And I shared that one sentence with you guys. And I know that's been stuck in the back of a lot of your minds as well. But shit, hate to frickin' have to swallow that one. But the fact is, it fits. It fits so well. It's alarming. It's annoying. It's sickening. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating. And it's a real shitty sandwich to eat, but it fits. Try to just ask yourself where that one fits, right? Control of the labor to appease the entity. And then think about how the quote, government does not give a shit about anyone or anything. That is a very, very easy one to back up too. Sadly, right? The monsters we've created are allowed to be created. Whoa. Kind of sucks. But what do you do? What do you do? It's amazing. This lifetime's amazing. But there's, like I said, I say it again. Sometimes you just got to wonder to yourself what it must be like to just go through life not giving a shit about anything, not giving a flying shit about any of the wrongs going on, not even being aware that there's possibly going to be some kind of a major, major global war any day now, and not even having a clue about that. The amount of people that I know personally who I find intelligent, and they don't even talk about it. They don't even talk about it. They're not concerned the slightest. They don't talk about it. They just keep going about, they just keep jumping in that running wheel in the gerbil cage and running every day. They just keep jumping in that wheel and going. Blinders on. I wonder what it must be like sometimes to have that comfort. Or is it comfort? Is it comforting, I wonder? To basically be aware as not as aware as your average pickle. And going through this lifetime, I wonder how comforting that is. What how comforting. Maybe it's our DNA strain. You know, we always talk about the DNA of these beings. Some of them have the more pure strain, some don't, which means some of them act more like animalistic, and others have qualities that we would perceive as absolutely supernatural. So, well, I guess I could probably answer that question pretty easy, right? Our DNA strains. Obviously, we have some absolute messed up human beings. I mean, so messed up. If nature took its role to the end, there's a lot of people right now that shouldn't be alive, right? If it was we were governed by nature's ways. But man, we've got some super intelligent human beings. I mean, super freaking intelligent. And then in the same community, we got some humans that I swear one of my chickens is more smarter than. You know? So maybe that our DNA, the answer's in our DNA. I'm really babbling, aren't I? But I think about things all the time, and then all of a sudden I'll try to talk out loud, and it's tough to get my brain to mesh up my lips sometimes, but think about it. Think about it. The majority of us just follow that path, although we know deep down it leads to discomfort and pain and suppression of your quality of life. And the majority of society just walk right down that path. Do. And then you get another percentage of the population, which I consider myself a member of, that see it clearly and go, fuck that, you pieces of shit. Why is that? Is it due to DNA? Is it due to what you've gone through in life? Is it due to how you were brought up? Is it due to, I don't know. How does one group of human beings have the F you? I see clearly. And a shit pile more of us don't even talk about it. It's frustrating, right? It's frustrating. Why I'm here. To try to motivate people to give a shit and speak the truth and not be scared. We're going to be dead. You're going to be dead, man. You're going to be dead. But anyway, another thing I do here is I try to share our little outdoor adventures as a way of trying to show that I'm walking the walk when it comes to making sure you do what you love to do with your time. Right? I mean, I work my ass off nonstop, and then I make sure I stop dead no matter what I have to get done and go do something that we love to do. That's a rule. You work, you get paid, meaning you feed the soul. And I add my little adventure clips on here daily when I can to hopefully motivate all of you, as many people as I can, to make sure you do what you love to do. And I think in turn, if I can get people to do that, that will also help people make their own choices, think about their lives, think about what they do on average and how it makes them feel. Meaning, are you spending too much time doing shit for somebody else that you don't want to, and it feels like shit, and you don't even do things that feel good anymore? Ooh, I'm trying to combat that too. I'm trying to combat lots of shit, as well trying to combat me babbling like an idiot nonstop, when I should probably get moving and spare you guys the agony. Now, here we go. I'm going to make a cool video. I've got this frickin' camera. It's frickin' amazing what these things do. The technology that is available right now kind of really freaks me out too. Holy shit. I'm going to, sometime today I'm going to make our full fishing video and hike video, and I'm going to put it up on the How to Hunt channel and share that with everyone. And Sarah's got, and she still has these mossy oak hats, and this one. I wore this one yesterday, and it was a pretty lucky hat. But she's sold in mossy oak. That's her favorite hat, period. So after yesterday. And she's got those in her store, and the link's down below. All right? What a day yesterday was. I'll be back tomorrow, I hope. I should be back tomorrow. One day, I won't be back tomorrow. Right? one day all of us won't be back tomorrow, and we won't be back ever. So don't forget it. Do something you love to do and fight back, and don't let people... All right, I'll bite my lip. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Get it to me.
Ruby, what's that? What's that? Go outside.
Oh, I shouldn't have said go. Sit. Sit. Sit.
Okay, good. Cheese.
Ruby!
There we go. Have a quick commentary. So much fun was that?
So fun.
So fun.
So fun.
So, I thought this was going to be the lucky hat, the orange one.
Nope. This one.
Mossy Oak. She got her new rod, brand new rod yesterday. First cast. What happened?
I got a fish.
You hooked one, played it, and
You got it off.
got off. Then what happened?
Then, what was it? 3 casts later?
Was it 3?
Yeah, it wasn't very many. It got a big one!
The biggest ever.
Yeah, it was pretty big.
Like, that's the biggest steelhead I've ever seen come out of this river, for me.
It's the biggest one I ever got.
It's like, I don't know, it's probably a $300 tip for the guide anyway.
Maybe some dinner made for you.
Maybe 300 cash should be better. I'll buy a McDonald's at 20 of it. That was good, eh?
Yes.
So the plan was this morning, go to one spot down the river, first light, did that. That happened. And then we were going to go to second spot up here where I know there's some fish. And we fished there, got one bite and I had one on. Got to the top, good enough. And then the rest of the plan for the day is what?
Going to look for antlers.
Elk antlers.
Elk antlers.
So now we're going to go get changed, give the dog lunch. And we're going to go hike uphill into the mountain. So that's our plan today, was to do this. We were planning on we're going to go hit that pool, hopefully catch one. And then we're going to hit this pool and hopefully catch one. And that was it, whether or not we got one or not. And then go look for elk antlers so we weren't all burnt out for hiking. So far, perfect. Plan has been perfect. Played out perfect so far. Let's go.
Need a drink?